to a very special episode of the 1973 podcast. I am so happy to welcome, hopefully, a friend of the show, Doug Smith, the
Certainly a friend of the show.
inspiration behind the Goon and sequel movies and published author also. So, Doug, let's get right into it. How did this journey start with everything that culminated into, as you put it before we went on the air, 15 minutes of fame? So let's start at the beginning. We got a little bit of backstory, but we didn't want to waste a lot for the show. So
Yeah, honestly, my hockey career was certainly by accident, and it was just shit luck, to be quite honest with you. Never played hockey as a kid growing up. Never played peewees or mites or high school or college, and in fact, I really didn't start skating until I was out of high school. I was 19 years old, and I was an amateur boxer all through high school. That was kind of my go-to sport. I didn't think I was going to be a pro fighter, but I enjoyed being an amateur boxer. I fought in all our local tournaments, the New England Golden Gloves and things like that. I picked up hockey just because back in the 80s, as we all know, hockey fighting was huge in the game. Every team had an arsenal of tough guys, and especially in the minor leagues, the American League, the AHL, the IHL, the East Coast Hockey League, all those leagues were loaded with tough guys. And that's kind of how, if you scored 50 goals, you'll get called up. If you had 300 penalty minutes, you got called up. So anyway, long story short, 19, 20-year-old kid, I decided to start learning how to skate on the pond with this ridiculous dream that I'm going to play minor league hockey as a fighter because I think I'm tough because I have a boxing background, right? Whatever. But fast forward, and, a couple of years later, I get into my first men's hockey league in the Boston area. I'm 22 years old. I play my first organized hockey game. And then the following year, I played in a league that was basically catered for amateurs and professionals during the summer, where I was watched by a scouting team of guys who worked for the NHL. And one particular guy, Paul Merritt, who worked for the Buffalo Sabres for over 40 years, he saw me and he said, "Listen, I know your skating's kind of raw here in comparison to these NHL guys, but I know you want to fight. And maybe I can make a few calls and get a door open for you," which is what he did. He got me down the East Coast Hockey League.
so the story of the Goon movie, there was a friend that actually talked you into uh, jumping into the world of playing hockey, let's per se. Now, how much of a difference is it between the actual your story in the book and what Hollywood took liberties with in the film?
Well, you're correct. And one of my best friends, his name was Adam Fratazio. I grew up with him in my neighborhood in the town of Hanover, Massachusetts, which is south of Boston. Adam was the one that got me on skates. Adam was the one that actually thought, crazier than I did, that your fighting background can maybe get you in the minor leagues. So Adam really was the catalyst to get me on the ice and get this rolling. They portrayed Adam in the movie, just like they had Sean William Scott, who we all know plays Stifler in American Pie, right? He plays Doug Glatt. Well, Jay Baruchel played the character of Adam, who, again, was the backbone to my hockey career. If it wasn't for Adam, we would never be here today. Trust me on that one. But, the book that Adam wrote, he was so sick and tired, he told me, of hearing all these stories that I would tell him about minor league bus rides and hockey fights and games, the years I played in the East Coast League and stuff. He said, "You really should sit down and write a book sometime." So Adam had a little bit of a journalistic background, and he decided to sit down and kind of bang away at it. And he put something together kind of chronologically from the beginning to where we were at in that period of time. And, like you said, Hollywood saw the book. They read it. They reached out to us, and they wanted to buy the rights because they said they wanted to make a movie. I'd probably say that 30-40% of the book is in the movie itself. It's a lot of their own script. There's a lot of corny, stupid, crazy things in the movie that really didn't happen to me, but there certainly are a lot of things in the movie that are from the book or from my career realistically.
I like how you ended up getting a cameo in the second movie.
Yeah, and from what I understand, they had plans on having me in the first movie itself. Apparently, because it's filmed in Canada, they have what I never knew of, Canadian labor laws, and I'm not a citizen. So they wouldn't allow me in the movie. I can assure you that the directors and the producers fought hard to get that waived, but I still couldn't get in. Somehow they were able to manipulate the second sequel movie to get me in it, even just for a short little piece like I got. But believe me, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's being a hockey fan and actually a hockey movie fan also, and of course the end all be all being Slapshot, but I think that the Goon story is right up there in probably the top five hockey movies of all time. I mean, you got Youngblood, you got the Goon, you got Slapshot. Uh, I love it was almost like an updated version of Slapshot, but focusing on one person, just like how the Shoresy TV show is now.
Right.
I don't think that hockey gets enough focus on how great the people are. And Tom and I were talking before we came on, and most of the guys that are the glue guys or the old school enforcers are the nicest guys when you meet them, and all the uh, community of hockey players that I've met either with the kids or when I was a kid growing up with my dad. We met Bobby Orr at like one of the Bay Bank openings back in the day, and he was super nice. And I can maybe count on one hand how many bad experiences I've had with meet and greets, and we've met a bunch of different guys through the card shows, and they're just always super nice, and especially when they see the kids, they want to know, if they play, where they play, or what position they play. So it's a great community. I don't know if your experiences away from it is just as good as when you were in it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I can tell you firsthand, even the guys that I fought, I'd go out and have a beer with them 2 hours later. I mean,
Yeah,
it's on the ice. It's a business, and we're all trying for the same thing, right? We're all trying to climb the ladder to get out of that shitty league that we're in, and we all want to make a name for ourselves. And it isn't personal. It's just we're all in the same boat here. Someone's got to get out of here.
yeah,
And you're right. All these guys, they're such good guys. I'm still friends with half the guys I fought, whether I won or lost today. It's an amazing fraternity. And I agree with you. I'm fortunate right now. I'm involved with the Boston Bruins alumni hockey team. And, they're all such solid guys. And whether you're a tough guy or a goal scorer, you're right. They cater to the kids, they give the kids what they want, and they understand because that's what you're supposed to do.
yeah. Going over your hockey stats from the teams that you played on, just doing a little quick homework.
It
You
must
know,
have been real quick.
the Johnstown Chiefs. They, there's a documentary out about that team because they were so crazy at one particular time, and
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were on that team that they had done the documentary on for those years that you played for them.
So I played, I believe, in 1990, and I got called in real late. I wasn't playing that year. I didn't get invited back to Carolina, the team I was with earlier, the Thunderbirds. We had won the championship the year earlier,
Right.
and I went to the Cincinnati Cyclones camp that fall, and I got released from them. But then I never went anywhere else. I just couldn't get a bite anywhere, and I was realistic. I knew it wasn't really so much about my fighting. It was about my hockey. I couldn't skate that well, and you had to be able to play. It was just the way it was. Um, and I got a late call in the end of the season, ironically, from Steve Carlson, who was the main character in Slapshot.
Yeah.
And Steve Carlson was the coach at Johnstown. And he called me up and he basically said, Smitty, I got about a dozen games left. We're not going to make the playoffs. And every game we have from here to the end, there's an asshole on the team that I want someone to kick their ass. Do you want the job? And I was like, sure do. Where's my plane ticket? And I was on my way. And believe me, to be able to hang out with Steve Carlson for a couple of weeks and get a handful of games, and I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just life experiences and stories that eventually parlayed into a book. It's fantastic. Before I ask the guys to if they got any questions, I want to ask you: is there a Goon 3 in the works?
So originally in the contract, there was an agreement for a trilogy of movies, so three of them. I haven't really heard solid information as of late. I did hear last year that there was some talk about them starting to write a third script, but it's been kind of quiet, so I don't know what's going on. Now, Hollywood's funny. Things die, or you get a phone call, we're ready to roll next week. And it's like, what are you talking about? It's just the way they are. They
Yeah.
they work off their own schedule. So I couldn't. I wish I could give you some insight. I don't know what's going on.
Tom, you have any questions for Doug?
Yeah, I want to know what aspects of your boxing career did you bring in to when you went to hockey? Did you how much of your boxing background did you bring to use when you fought as an enforcer?
I'll tell you, it was really for me personally. It was the skating and the balance on skates that was the hardest part. Yes, I brought the knowledge of how to throw with both hands. I brought the knowledge of how to take a punch, how to shy away from a punch, how to duck out of the way. Hopefully, once in a while you get tagged, but you don't get KO'd. But really, it was the balance on skates and not getting, you start wrestling with someone, they pull you down and you look like an asshole, the fight's over. And that was one of my biggest concerns. I always realized in my head that, I'm here in the minor pros as a hockey fighter first and a hockey player second, where everyone I'm fighting is basically, they grew up as a hockey player. They're only fighting now as a necessity. They're either trying to protect their team, they're either trying to pad their resume and bring something more that's noticeable for a scout. People weren't like me. I was one dimensional. I was there to only fight, and I loved it. But, again, for me, it was balance.
What aspect of being an enforcer do you think fans don't understand that fans don't get?
Well, I don't think they have the ability to sit on a bench and take a rotation and take a shift and realize that there could be an asshole on the other team who's going to run you through the glass, who's going to pound you unmercifully. And the referee might not get there, the linesman might not get there in time to save your ass. And, having a guy like Doug Smith on the bench, it sometimes, not all the time, but it sometimes makes the other team realize, hey, if we act up, this guy's going to come off the bench. He's going to clean my clock. And, maybe I'll just play hard, but I just won't be dirty hard. And, if you don't play the sport, you don't know what it's like to be intimidated on the ice. And it's a scary place to be. Listen, I like to fight. I wanted to fight. I wanted that job. And I can tell you many nights looking across the ice at the guy I'm going to have to go with, I was scared. I was nervous.
That was
So, and I'm the guy that's supposed to do it. I'm not just some gifted, talented hockey player. I'm the guy who's the rough guy, right? So if I'm nervous, this guy next to me, he's shitting his pants.
was going to be one of my questions later on was what's the thing going through your mind when you're just about to fight a guy? You're both dropping your gloves. What's going through your mind at that point?
You kind of pre-forecast a fight. I do anyway, and maybe it's my boxing days, but I probably fought the guy in my mind 100 times before I actually fought him, and you try to have kind of a game plan. But I tell you, the second the gloves come off, I go into la la land. I don't even know if I'm riding on a carnival eating cotton candy or if I'm getting my face punched in, because it's over before you know it. And you're sitting in the box and you just come back down again and you decompress and you're like, wow, you look at the guy in the box who's handing you the ice and the water and you say, did I win or did I lose? I go into a fog. I don't fight out of anger. I never really have. I've always stayed composed. But yeah, sometimes you just kind of tune out. It's such tunnel vision is really what it is. You're so focused on the guy in front of you that everything else is obsolete.
Ed, you got a question for Doug?
Sure. I'm going to ask you tell us your memory, your most favorite memory leading up to you winning the championship. Like kind of walk us through that and how you experienced that. And so I was little bit different, when you're rolling over the boards, when you're because playoff hockey is very different than kind of like the regular season. So kind of take us through that and kind of like what your thought was and how exciting that was for you.
Yeah, I went to the Winston-Salem Thunderbirds training camp. I had a really good camp, but I got released in camp. They just wanted to keep a couple of guys that actually had got sent down from the American League, and they were players. And one kid was a pretty physical kid, so justifiably, I lost my job to a better player. Well, it was only a couple of months later, the coach called me back and said, "Hey, listen, this guy got hurt. This guy went home. The roster's falling apart, but I need a tough guy. You're still willing to do the job?" And I said, "Yeah." And so Carolina brought me down sometime in, say, December, and we rolled on through, and we had a great team. We had a great nucleus of players. We had another tough guy with me. His name was Billy Heward. Billy Heward played in the NHL for 6 or 7 NHL teams, including my Boston Bruins a few years later. We just had a wagon, and we went on to win the cup that year. I believe it was called the Kelly Cup in 88, 89. And I didn't get to play in the playoff finals. They ended up scratching me just because, it's playoff hockey. It was still physical, but there wasn't a lot of shit for Doug Smith to do. They needed goal scorers. They got to win the game. And believe me, it worked out because we had the 7th and final game on the road in Johnstown. Johnstown, they're tough guys too, just like us. They're loaded. But the strategy worked. We beat them, in their barn on the road, and we got the championship. And yeah, I walked away with a championship ring. And like you said, memories forever.
The East Coast Hockey League, Doug, was known in the late 80s and through the 90s as being like, you know, even though it was under the AHL, it was known for being, you had to be really tough. Or if somebody had said, hey, you came through the East Coast League, they were like, oh, this guy has seen some stuff, like maybe some hockey PTSD in a way.
Yeah, I mean, there was only the year I played was the very first year, and there was only 5 teams, and you played each team. I think there was like a 60 or 70 game schedule. There was a lot of games, so you end up playing each team, 12, 15 times, and believe me, each team, like you said, had 3 or 4 tough guys, and you had to get through all of them at one point or another. Like you couldn't just hide. There was just no hiding in that league. It was just the way it was. So if you were there to fight, you were earning your money. And again, like I said earlier, I wanted that job. I enjoyed it. And trust me, I took my lumps. I'm brand new at skating. I'm brand new at playing hockey. I'm certainly brand new at hockey fighting. But I always had the willingness. I always had the passion for it. And I always said to myself, listen, if I got my ass kicked on Friday night, yeah, it's round one. We're playing tomorrow night. I'll try it again. And, thankfully I'm not like, scrambled upstairs right now from it, but it was part of the journey.
Before I kick it to the guys again, I just want to mention that when you were on that championship team, looking at the stats, it's 28 games played, okay? 1 assist. But here's what sticks out. You were a plus 10, not a minus 10, a plus 10.
Right.
And 179 minutes in penalties in that short amount of games. That is unbelievable. So
Yeah.
championship ring is well deserved. Just with the plus 10 and the 179 minutes in penalties, that's well
So
deserved, my friend.
I think the plus 10 comes from a lot of my single shifts, like one in the first period, one in the second period type of thing. Honestly, those shifts came, I would be a winger on the first line to protect those best players. My coach wasn't throwing me out with the fourth line scrubs and just, flounder around. He purposely put me out with guys that he wanted actually protected. So a lot of my plus 10 came because that first line would score, and my fights were coming off of that because guys were trying to bully my players, and I wouldn't allow it. So yeah, there's your almost 200 penalty minutes.
I love it though. Well deserved. Well deserved. Thomas, question for Doug.
Yeah, I see a lot of interviews with players, and they always remember their first and last goals. Do you remember your first fight and your last fight?
Yes. My first fight was in the East Coast Hockey League, like we have been talking about with Carolina. It was against the Knoxville Cherokees. They had two tough kids. They had a kid named Greg Batters, who was an LA Kings draft pick, super tough. Kid scored like 50 goals, and he had like 300 penalty minutes. Legit all-around player. The other kid was a French-Canadian kid named Alex Davio. I fought Batters in the first period and beat him. And then I fought Davio in the second period and beat him. So my first game, my first introduction to pro hockey was with two victories. And believe me when I tell you, the redneck hillbillies of North Carolina were going to throw a parade down Main Street because they love this new guy, Yankee Doodle from Boston, coming down and fighting these guys that have been bullying our team. So that was my first game, my first night of hockey, which was tremendous. I'm trying to think of what my last game was. I can't remember what my last game was, but I'll tell you probably what one of my last games was I got a call to the American Hockey League, the second best hockey league in the world. And I'm going to have a chance to play for the Moncton Hawks and fight possibly the heavyweight champion of the league at that time. His name was Frank Bialowas. They called him Frank the Animal. And I knew ahead of time that Bialowas had just been sent down from Toronto to the American League. So, of course, he's going to be pissed off. He's not going to be happy. And the last thing he's going to want is this call up for one night saying, "Hey, will you give me a shot, champ?" Well, he gave me a shot, all right. And it made me a nice cover of my book with a black eye and 8 stitches over my face. But that was probably my happiest, most proudest moment to make it to the American Hockey League, although I certainly lost the fight, totally outclassed, totally overwhelmed. He was a bona fide NHL caliber fighter. But listen, I was just skating on a pond a couple of years earlier, so I can live with it.
Yeah, it's a local story that went global with the Goon movie, but it's fantastic. I mean, the whole thing. We have a couple of eclectic sports nuts on the podcast, and one of the guys, he's from the South, and we try to tell him he's the only guy that doesn't watch hockey, and there's a reason for why you should watch it. And it's stories like this. There's no other sport that you could get into doing what you do and possibly make it to a professional lineup. That's the nuance of hockey. It's a game within a game. Even when I coach the kids, there's so many little nuances to it. It's good when you're good at everything, even the chirping and being able to put up points or whatever. But there is a role for the mid-tier to lower tier teammates that you have, and you can be really good at that and be valuable, whether it's a locker room guy or a gritty guy, a sandpaper guy, or a glue guy. And if you're not in a hockey realm, you don't understand those terms, but there is the need for people like that, especially if you roll deep into the playoffs. The great teams always have those good locker rooms, and it's a balance of a lot of things that drive a team along the way. And you're Doug, you're the perfect example of, not because you're a local guy, but you're the perfect example of that in a nutshell.
Well, like you said, I mean, on a professional level, certainly you need that chemistry. You need a little bit of everything. It's got to mesh. It's got to work out just right. I mean, lately we've been watching the Florida Panthers, right? They've been dominating the NHL over the last couple of years. It's because they have a little bit of everything. Like you said, they got goal scorers, they got grit, they got toughness, and they're able to funnel it together and make it work. And the teams they're playing, they have it too, but they just don't have enough of it, and they can't get it together enough, and they're losing out to a team like Florida. And, like you said, that you got to have it all, or you're not going to get it all.
Yep. Tom, more questions for Doug.
Yeah, going back to the movie, what's it like seeing someone play you? I imagine it must be weird.
Yeah, I can tell you a bunch of different things. The emotions when I first got a phone call from, a representative from Hollywood saying they wanted to buy our book to make a movie. I actually hung up the first time. I thought it was just someone playing with me, and they were like pranking me. And I kind of was like, "Yep, okay, no problem," and I hung up. And they called me back like 10 minutes later. And he was like, no, seriously, I'm so and whatever. And we're sending out a couple of guys. We want to take you out for dinner. We want to introduce ourselves to you. We want to make an offer. We want to buy the rights to your book. We're thinking about making a movie. And it was one of those things where they said to me, Doug, on a serious note, we buy hundreds of books every year thinking that they're going to make a movie with your story or a story, and they end up sitting on a shelf. And he said, to be honest with you, your story is so narrow. It's got to be for a sports person. And then there's a lot of violence involved. And it's probably not going to cater to women. And it's going to be probably more from middle-aged adults who are male and into sports. He said, the point is the movie probably won't be made. Take your money and run. Like, let us buy the rights to your book. And if it sits on a shelf, it sits on a shelf. But, don't say no to this opportunity. So Adam and I, of course, we sign the dotted line. We take our money and we run. 6 months later, they call us back. Hey, we're going to start a script. Here's the cast that we have involved. And we got invited up to the premiere of the movie. We went to the Toronto International Film Festival and we saw the movie. Adam, his wife, and my wife, Sharon, we got invited up by the producers and the directors. And we watched the movie for the first time. And I've said this before. My wife, she's sitting next to me. And after she watches the movie, she looks at me, she says, "You're ruined for life." I'm like, I know. Like, okay, we've seen the movie, right? We know what Doug Glatt is all about today. But when you first see it, you can't help but think, is this how they're emulating me? Is this what they think of me? Like I'm a caveman. Um, I get it. It's all Hollywood. It's all good today. But I can tell you the first night I saw it, I wanted to put my tailpipe in my mouth.
I think, I mean, if that's how people are going to remember you, I mean, it's a lot worse things they could be remembering you for. I mean, especially being a local guy, like a Massachusetts guy, you kind of like embrace the hate almost sometimes. It's like, sometimes it's good to play the villain, but in that movie, they, other than portraying him kind of a little bit on the autistic side, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, the ending scene where he blocks the shot with his face and all that stuff. I mean, there's movie magic in there too. And depending on your the room and who you're talking to, you can say, "Yeah, that was me. I did that." And just
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a few things I could add blib on and say, yeah, that was about me, and embellish on this a little bit on the side. But there's certainly a bunch of things that are unrealistic, right? I mean, who fights the champ of the league on a broken ankle and wins? Not this guy.
Well, when you were talking about how they had brought what's his name down from Toronto, and you had a chance to fight him in the AHL, it's almost like what they did with Ross the Boss, right? In the movie, almost kind of loosely based on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they figured out their characters and how they came up with them. I mean, listen, everybody that I fought in the 80s and 90s, everyone looked the same. You either had a mullet or you had a Fu Manchu mustache, right? Everyone had the Fu Manchu going, right? I mean, I can't grow a beard if I had a gun to my head, but everyone else did. So, probably pretty easy to make a character based on one of those type of features. But, you certainly better be mean looking anyway.
Well, they gave them both. They gave them the mullet and the Fu Manchu.
There you go.
Yeah. So they were covering all the bases for the hockey
Right.
fans. Ed, questions for Doug?
I do. So, Doug, kind of take us through. I mean, since you did the Golden Gloves boxing, that definitely takes a lot of technique, and that's a very niche kind of sport because it really is the sweet science. And so, kind of, how did you take that and kind of apply that to learning how to skate, and kind of take how many days a week were you training and learning how to skate and kind of getting your balance and everything like that, so you could get out there and play hockey?
Yeah, when I first started, I did a lot of public skating by myself. I did a lot of power skating. I even went to power skating in my next town over for kids that were like 7, 8, 9 years old. I'm 22 years old. I weigh 250 pounds. I'm a weightlifter, boxer. I'm 6'2", and I'm skating with all these little kids, and we're all the same. We're all falling down. It was ridiculous. But I was trying to learn to skate. And that focus point for that, it was probably a solid year. I don't think I once picked up a glove. I don't think I once went to the gym to train on that. It just wasn't there at the time. It was more about learning my balance long enough that I can literally square off and not lose my focus on my opponent, or get pulled down, like I said earlier, and fall and be an embarrassment to myself or my team. I will say this: I don't pat myself on the back too often, but I'll say this: of all the fights I've had at the pro level, East Coast, IHL, AHL, I never once fall down. Never once. You can see all my fights on YouTube. I never once go down. I get hammered with shots. Frank Bialowas hit me with 5 consecutive punches. My head almost went into the snack bar, and I never went to my knees. So what did you take from boxing? I don't know. Maybe I had a strong chin. I don't know. But, it's just everything evolved together for me, and it just worked.
Get out. As Menard clears it out in the Johnstown end. Buck will stay in play as Erdeline picks it up behind the Johnstown goal and clears it out. We've got a fight going on. It's our new boy, Doug Smith. Oh, is he working him over? Misiak. He dropped Misiak like nothing.
And then Doug Smith got a high stick.
Oh, yeah. Now they got another one going down there. See if they can pick up. Oh, that's the same one. Smith is in another fight.
That's the guy that high sticked him.
Yeah, Goddard now is picking up. There's Erdeline trying to get into it. He's being held off by Drevich. But Misiak really took a beating. Now Misiak wants to fight Erdeline. He couldn't handle Smith. Smith is going to become a favorite in Johnstown. Boy, can he throw the uppercuts.
Yeah. He goes over to the penalty box now and sits down as it's all broken up. Misiak was not a factor.
Oh, God, he covered up. That was Stanley then that the Smith started to work over. Well, I'm glad to see we got a pretty good policeman in Doug Smith.
We definitely needed some muscle.
Yeah.
Boy, he's a big kid. Look at him standing over there.
Yeah.
He just dwarfs the cameraman next to him.
What we got going into the dressing room? Looks like that's
Scott Taylor, third man in the fight. That's an automatic game misconduct. So for Virginia, Taylor will be gone for the rest of the evening.
Oh, Goddard is trying him. He's bad somebody as he crawls into the penalty box.
He's talking to the vicar of Wakefield in an unchurch-like manner. Vic already has it sorted out. We have 3 in the penalty box right now, and Virginia has no one. That'll have to change.
This Misiak is supposed to be a battler.
He was not battling that time, was he? He was covering up.
Well, I guess that's why he hasn't caught on in this leg.
Rock around the clock.
Yeah, we're going to lose our buddy. Doug Smith is going to go to the dressing room. He'll soon become a favorite of the Johnstown fans.
Penalties.
Yes.
Was there ever
Yeah, no, I
a fighter
think
that hit you and you felt it more than other guys, that like the hardest hitter?
During the fight itself, you don't really feel it. I know that's kind of odd to say. And for people that have never been in a fight, you would say, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Now, you certainly feel it 15, 20 minutes later when you're in the locker room getting stitches in your face. You're like, holy shit, I just got hit with a cinder block. But, in the heat of the moment, you're just going. And that's how people get caught. They get knocked out. You're just into it. You don't feel it. And all of a sudden, one gets you really perfectly and puts your lights out. Frank Bialowas was certainly capable of doing that. I thank my lucky stars that I was just fortunate not to be that victim. But again, it wasn't something I really worked on because it was just something I had done since I was a kid. So it was just natural. It was all about skating.
They should have put that scene in the movie with you power skating with 7 and 8-year-olds. That would have been fantastic.
I've said it before. I wish there was like video camera back then where I was, like consciously following this progressive, trail I was making for myself. Because realistically, I never thought I was going to ever play pro hockey. I mean, give me a break. What idiot would possibly think for real that that type of a dream at 20, 21, 22, you're going to break the pro lineup as a fighter? First of all, you don't play hockey, you're starting late, and you're really not even that good of a fighter anyway. Like, if you're that good, turn pro as a boxer. And I wasn't. I was just good enough. So, again, I wish I had that on video. Watching me skate with those little kids, it was hysterical. And I paid for it, $20 a session.
Ed, you had another question?
Yeah, I was just, it's funny because I used to work downtown Boston, and and so I used to one of my accounts was WAAF, and I got to meet LB, and it was really interesting to meet LB. Really, really good guy. And when I shook his hands, it was like shaking like lunch boxes that were like filled with like lead weights. And I never realized how heavy guys' hands really were until I met him. And it was because he's a pretty big guy, and I was like looking at him like, man, that's a big dude right there. And it was just interesting. Was there any time that you were sitting on the bench, you're like, man, I got to go out there and I got to face that guy? Do I really want to do that?
Yeah, I'm a lot like you. I always size up guys for some reason because I want to just see what do they have over me. Is it height? Is it weight? Is it reach? How big are their hands? Like you said, it just all comes into your makeup when you're a fighter. And you're right. Like I've met LB, and he's a big guy. Like I'm only
Yeah, he
six.
is.
I'm only 6'2". I was playing, my playing weight was like 230, 235. But really, I wasn't a big guy for that era. Like 6'5", 6'6" was a normal size for these guys in the minor leagues. It was a big guys. And, of course, with that height comes the reach. And, their fists are like this, where mine's like this. Here comes theirs. And it's like, you're looking at yourself saying,
Yeah.
boy, I'm going to get smoked. So I agree with you. Some of these guys are pretty intimidating looking.
So being an outsider with
Yeah,
the
very much so.
looking at the enforcers at that time, it's going to be pretty impressive when you think of the guys that you fought. It wasn't even at the NHL level to see a guy that was an uber enforcer like Bob Probert. How crazy must he have been actually if you had sized up with somebody at that level? Just thinking about the guys you fought at your level,
Yeah.
just to imagine his level, because I mean that people as a kid, everybody knew that he was the man until Domi showed up and they had those bouts where they were going back and forth who was champion and all that.
Right. Well, I mean, I'll refer back to Frank Bialowas. I mean, Frank Bialowas was an NHL caliber fighter, and he took me apart in seconds. Like it was no contest. And he played and he fought against Tony Twist and some of these other guys when he got his call ups, and he did well. And there's no rhyme or reason why you stay or you get sent back down, whether it's politics or whatever. But there's a guy that could play in the NHL as a fighter for sure. And I can relate, like you said, how good would be a Bob Probert? Well, I can tell you how good Bialowas was. So, yeah, there's a significant difference from a real bottom of the barrel minor leaguer to a guy who's on the cusp of staying in the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Favorite fight of all time is got to be that one in your book for you.
Oh yeah, of course. Even though, like I said earlier, even though I lost the fight, listen, I made it to the American Hockey League, the second best hockey league in the world, and I had no right being there. But I certainly wasn't going to lose my give up my opportunity. Of course I'm going to take it, and I know what's coming with it. I can see what the lineup is that I'm going to be put in up against, and I know I'm just being served up like a lamb, and I get that, but I wanted it. And how can you not say thank you for giving me this?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thomas, question for Doug?
Yeah, you kind of actually already answered this a little bit earlier, but when you first got into the league, was it awkward running into these guys afterwards, after the game, like you'd be out at a bar or restaurant?
Surprisingly, I went in narrow-minded thinking, oh shit, here's whoever I just fought or who I just played an hour ago because they're spending the night in our town, or we're on the road, we're spending the night. We're going to play them again tomorrow night. And here's this guy that I just had a beef with 2 hours ago. Well, I'm ready now because I'm a street fighter. I'm no hockey fighter, but I can go on the fucking street. So I'm ready. And it was nothing even close to that. It was handshakes. It was like, where did you come from? What's your background? Let me buy you a beer. Did you play this team yet? Have you fought this guy yet? Tell me about this guy. You're swapping stories. I'm telling you, my bond is better with half the guys I fought than some of my teammates that I played with. It's just the way it was. It was a crazy fraternity.
Yeah, when I talked to Dan Locatore, he said that you guys were tight, and he said that nothing but good things about you. So I said, I can't wait. I mean, I can't wait. He's supposed to come on too with us in a couple weeks and talk shop. So we're looking forward to that, and especially having you on, and these stories are fantastic from a lifetime hockey fan. I mean, coach, played, ref, the whole deal. I mean, it's
Yeah.
great for me just to just sit back and be like a voyeur with the whole thing. So,
Well, ironically, we'll quickly just say happy birthday to Dan. Today is his birthday, ironically.
yeah,
And I'll quickly tell you, I met Dan while I worked for the Boston Bruins organization. I was in Providence. If you can believe it, the Bruins hired me as a fight instructor. I was down in the American Hockey League, started off teaching Europeans and college kids how to defend themselves. Not really go looking for the fight, but just how to defend themselves. It quickly snowballed because the actual guys who were fighting started to gravitate over towards me saying, hey, I want to do these workouts with you too, because this is what I do for a living. And I met Dan when he was picked up by the Bruins. They signed him. They sent him down to Providence for a little while, conditioning, get in shape type of thing. And he was getting called up. And he was getting called up, and he was going to end up fighting Ty Domi.
Wow.
And I said, Dan, we got to get on the ice. We're going to work out. Listen, I said, I know Domi like the back of my hand. I never fought him, but I've watched him. A hockey fight fan. You watch guys like Domi. He's incredible. And I told him he's going to be throwing lefts. You have to throw lefts. You're not going to go right for left and leave yourselves wide open. You're going to get KO'd. Because Domi gets you going in that spin that he loves to get going. And as he's spinning, he's whipping those bombs. I said, you're going to go left for left. And he did pretty well against Domi. He fought him in Pittsburgh, and then I think he fought him in Toronto a second time later on. But the first time he fought Domi, he did well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tom, questions?
Yeah. Once you retired, what was the transition like going from and being an enforcer to everyday life? I mean, especially like nowadays, you go walking down the street, you want to punch somebody in the head. You can't really do that. I mean,
Yeah, I like I said earlier, I mean, it was kind of something that was on the ice. It's just, for me, I could flip the switch on and off, right? I mean, when you have to be an asshole, you can be an asshole. But when you're not supposed to be, and you got to be normal and a nice, friendly guy, then that's what you are. Um, I miss the camaraderie with the guys. I miss that team atmosphere, the locker room with the boys and afterwards and hanging out. And I did, like I said earlier, I enjoyed my job. I liked being the enforcer of the team. I liked fighting. I enjoyed it. I didn't really miss it tremendously, though, once it was over for me. I felt like, hey, I had a run that I shouldn't have ever had. It certainly lasted longer than I should have ever had. And yeah, look what I get out of it. I mean, 2 books and 2 movies. Are you kidding me? I never played in the show. I never won the Stanley Cup. And I get 2 books and 2 movies. I mean, how much more can you be thankful for?
And especially being a hockey guy, that's even better. It's hockey based.
I suppose, right?
You get that too.
Right?
Ed, questions for Doug?
Sure. I'm going to ask you. So, how do you feel about the league kind of starting to eliminate fighting out of the game? Where myself, Andy, and Tom, we still believe that there is a place in the game for it. Should it be kind of like back in the 70s and 80s? Maybe not, but I feel like that there's a place in the game for it to protect the players for more player safety than anything else.
Well,
you feel
you're
about that?
100%. Yeah, you're 100% correct. All 3 of you are correct. It's a necessity. The guys have to be able to police themselves. And I know the NHL was trying to almost abolish it and eliminate it through penalties and whatnot. And a lot of teams were drinking the Kool-Aid. They were getting rid of their tough guys. They were drafting and bringing more skilled guys, and they're getting pushed around. And slowly but surely, there's been a few teams that have kept a physical guy who's made a mark. And now teams are starting to say, you know what, we need to get somebody that maybe isn't a Doug Smith or just a goon, so to speak, but someone's got to have some sandpaper grit to them in case this other guy decides to act up. Listen, even my Boston Bruins, they don't have like a real true heavyweight enforcer, but they've picked up a couple of guys that can kind of scrap when they have to. And you need that. It's just the bottom line. Unless you completely outright eliminate it altogether and put like full cages on and penalties and suspensions and fines, you're never going to get rid of it. The game's too physical. It's too violent. There's always going to be a fight, whether it's premeditated or not.
Do you now a lot of purists in the hockey world don't like premeditated fights. They don't like that. They prefer it only happen when two guys are really pissed off at each other. I think most of the code is kept with the enforcers as far as, hey, listen, I got X amount of fights in the league, and you respect what I do, and I give you a tap on the back when it's done, rather than the Matt Cooks running around doing dumb things and causing concussions and cut backs of legs and things like that. I mean, the code is still the code, right?
The code is still the code. I think spontaneous fights are probably the best fights, in the 80s and 90s, so to speak, when there was endless premeditated fights. That was fun if you're a hockey fight fan because you want to see the two tough guys who have the two biggest egos going at it. But what was the real purpose? Like nothing happened prior. No one got run or bullied where it was necessity to go after somebody. So we have today, we don't have so much premeditated where we have spontaneous instead. But you're right. You can't have these guys like a Matt Cook, for an example, or even our Boston Bruins, Brad Marchand, who's when I was in Florida. But you can't have guys like that running around. You got to have someone to step up and say, "Hey, brother, you can't be doing that, or you're going to deal with me." And you
Right.
don't want to deal with me.
Right. I
Yeah.
miss that. I miss that. I mean, the only rat growing up that I remember was Kenny Linsman, but Kenny Linsman had a purpose to try to get under whoever the best
Yeah.
player on the other team's skin was. But
Right.
I prefer I always like the Wendell Clarks, the Rick Tockett's, the Neelys, the very heavy hit guys that could still fight in the heavyweight category if they had to. Those three guys are in my Mount Rushmore
Right.
of power forwards from back
Right.
in the day.
Right.
Like they played the game the right way. They played it honest. They played it the pure stake of winning and the betterment of the team. And that's what I think is missed is those mid-tier guys that could get you between 30 and 50 goals,
Right.
but still you knew when they were on the ice and not to screw around with them.
Yeah, and I'll add another name to that list, Shane Corson, who was a nemesis of us with the Canadians. He was the same cut and same mold, and you're right. That type of player is what we need today. If the NHL just wants to get away from fighting outright, you got to get that type of a guy now who can play and fight. And if every team could have one or two guys, is Tom Wilson that type of guy? I don't know. Is Ryan Reeves that type of guy? I don't know. But my point though is there's not enough of them to go around, and we need to replenish the stock.
I agree. I mean, that's what if I had to pick one thing that's missing in hockey is the superstar power forward that played that style is well needed. The 230, 240 pound guy that could be a game changer for you when he's on the ice. He's intimidating without being the intimidator.
Yeah.
You knew, just not stay away from him because he'll get you back. You're never going to get a heads up. So
Right.
And then you have the old Samuelson thing and all that stuff, and that could go into a whole nother
Right.
conversation.
Yeah. But you know, those guys, like you said, I would categorize myself as an insurance policy on the bench, right? I'm a guy that's on the bench. I'm an insurance policy. If I'm needed, I'm getting a tap on the shoulder from the coach. Right there, go get number 11. He's an asshole,
I
right?
love it.
But that's what those guys bring. They're an insurance policy to your gigantic investment of a team. You got to have it.
Did you ever really have good chirping skills when you were playing hockey, Doug?
Still do today.
Oh,
I've
I
I've,
love it.
I've relocated it. I've relocated from the hockey rink to the golf course. Yeah. No one gets away with anything on the golf course with me.
Fantastic. Yeah, we were talking about that pretty sporadically on the tread beforehand. The love of golf.
Yeah.
Tom, question for Doug.
Yeah, what advice would you give the young players right now who might be looking to get into that enforcer role or going to be placed in that enforcer role?
Well, you never really placed into it, to be honest with you. I mean, you have to want that role. And like we just got through talking about, it's really not there anymore. I mean, you can play gritty, you can play tough and physical. You know, the fight might happen, but listen, high school, college, what are you wearing? You're wearing a cage. You're wearing a bubble. You're wearing a motorcycle helmet. There's not much fighting. If you play juniors, juniors has pretty much stayed the same. Half shield, you know, they allow you to flip them up a little bit. You can fight more in juniors. But you know what? I mean, you're a young kid growing up. Your best bet is to work on your skating. It's all about skating today. Whether you're 5 feet tall or 6'5", it's all about skating.
The Quebec Major Junior League outlawed the fighting, so now you only have the Western Hockey League and the Ontario League that allow
Yeah.
the fighting. Which, I mean, doesn't the comedy kind of write itself that the Q outlawed the fighting? They always said that was the softer one of the three.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, do the other leagues follow suit or do they hold firm knowing that, listen, being gritty and tough is the ticket for a lot of these kids who are they're poor, they come from farms, they don't have a great future. If being physical and rough is going to allow you income, are you really going to abolish it? So who knows what they're going to do? Listen, people can shit on Bettman all they want. He's kept fighting somewhat alive in our game. He could easily have hit the gavel with the hammer a long time ago. He avoids the subject. He doesn't talk about it. We both know he tries to avoid the CTE and all the controversy that comes with it because he knows I got to try to keep this involved in the league somehow, some way without totally offending everybody. I don't know. What do you do?
It does put a big pop in the crowd when it happens now, especially in markets that aren't used to seeing it. When it happens, it everybody stands up and watches it like it's a big goal or something like that. It's still amazing to see if to let it go totally would be it should just be tough for me to let it go as a fan.
Right. No, I agree. I agree 100%.
The Kachuk brothers. Now, are they rats or are they more of the throwback?
Oh, they're definitely throwback. I mean, come on. Listen, I mean, a rat, you know, we talked about what a rat could be earlier, right? They don't play that style, not in my opinion, because they can back it up. I've seen them drop their gloves, so that they'll back it up. Now, listen, they're not dropping their gloves against Bob Probert style type of guys. You know what I'm saying? But my point, though, is they back it up. And they're kind of in that, they're not quite the Neely, the Corson, the Wendell Clark breed, but they're kind of itching. They want to be that, but we got nothing else, so embrace it.
Yeah, and you got to love them even more after the Team USA thing.
Yeah, I mean, how amazing was that, right? I mean, they took it, they took that game to a whole nother level that no one expected.
Yeah, just the viewership alone on that second game went from I think 3 million. We talked about it on the podcast. I don't have the numbers, but it went to almost something ridiculous. Like 12 million people watched that rematch game, and it was
you know why? Because the anticipation, right? They thought, oh, this is going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be awesome. Well, where are all your hockey purists? They're right there watching it too.
Right. Right. And so it kind of makes you wonder when the Olympics come around next year, what Team USA looks like. I mean, if you're a Team USA fan, I mean, the future's bright for them with Austin Matthews and that crew gonna compete for a gold. So it'd be nice to see them, kind of get a little bit of revenge against the group that, they didn't beat this time around.
Yeah, could be for sure.
Tom, any more questions for Doug?
Yeah, my only other question I have is how have you stayed active around the hockey world, around the rink since you've retired?
So, like I mentioned earlier, I am heavily involved with the Boston Bruins alumni hockey team. I'm one of their referees. They basically do 40-ish or maybe a little bit more than 40 games a year, basically all charity games. So I get quite a fix through that. And, of course, you're rubbing elbows with all the big wigs, right? I mean, I've been on the ice with Ray Bork and Tuukka Rask and Zdeno Chara, and you name it. I mean, all the guys, Bergeron, all the guys that have retired, and even the guys that are still playing today, they sometimes show up to the games just for support. I was coaching for years at my high school. Hanover High School is where I graduated from back in the day. I coached for them for 20 something years, but I kind of gave that up a while back. And so really, it's just a lot of charity hockey, a lot of fundraising. I feel really blessed. I feel fortunate that, I got this Goon jersey here and this lifestyle that I'm kind of falled back on, and I'm trying to use it the best way I can. And I'm very fortunate. I get invited a lot to attend fundraising events, trying to help people raise money for a lot of serious issues. Um, during the summer months, it could be a golf tournament. It's all about Doug Glatt and the movie. And so, trust me, I feel very fortunate that I got what I got, and I'm going to use it the best I can to help others too.
Ed, any more questions for Doug?
I got three.
Three.
All right.
You better sit up. Are you laying down?
Kind of. Man, you're calling me out, man. Come on now. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. I've been up since 4:15. Come on.
Stop it.
Anyway,
Give it to him, Doug. Give it to him.
that's cool. I can take it. I can take it. So who would be the person that you'd say when you saw him play when you were playing that in the league that actually made it to the show? When you knew you saw him and you're like, this kid's just special? And then I think that you also have a hockey team that you're involved with as well. So I mean, I definitely want you to talk about that. And then here's one that's completely off the rails. Favorite pizza place.
I'll start with my favorite pizza place. I would probably say I enjoy Poopsie's Pizza in Marshfield.
Okay.
It's on the Pembroke Marshfield line in Mass. It's Poopsie's. It's just a small bar pizza. It's pretty good.
Awesome. Absolutely good stuff.
Yeah, and I'll say close second is Regina's in Boston.
Yes.
I like Regina's. They're pretty good too. It's just a haul to get in there.
Yeah.
As far as younger talent, I got called up to play with the Phoenix Roadrunners, and they had a young draft pick. His name was Daniel Briere. And they brought me in for a 4 or 5 games to kind of protect him because their tough guy was injured. And boy, I tell you, you watch the kid like that skate. I mean, he was a skeleton. He was probably all of the size of this pen, skinny as a rail. But boy, could he skate and fly. I mean, yeah, I was fortunate. I get to see a lot of young talent that went on to play. Even tough guys, like I mentioned earlier, like Billy Heward, started with me in the East Coast League. He was a 19, 20-year-old kid. He ended up playing for 6 or 7 NHL teams, and he was a legitimate heavyweight tough guy. So the hockey world has been very good to me for exposure purposes. And the hockey team, I mean, like I said, all I'm involved with right now for hockey is with the Bruins alumni. I couldn't be more blessed to be associated with that group of people. They're amazing.
Any questions for Doug?
I've peppered him with questions. I don't have any more.
Yeah, well, Doug, we usually try to keep it around the hour mark, but I just want to say before we go, thanks from all the guys in the hockey community, exactly that that follow what we do, and we're all Gen Xers, like I said, so you fit right in the wheelhouse of whether our comedy, our views, our sarcasm. We're all massholes. Ed's originally from Marion. Tom's originally from Marion. I'm from
Not a place it. Come on now.
now.
Not a place
Yeah.
it. Get it straight. Get it
My
straight.
wife's from
Get it straight.
Weymouth, so she's not too far away from.
There you go. Yeah, that's only 2 towns away from me.
Yeah.
Yes, even like playing town hockey with traveling with the kids, we've hitting all of the towns. We've hit
Right.
them all. So we know the area. We know the area well, and yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. Lots of great stories. Probably could sit and talk about just hockey in general, not just about yourself for forever. And just
Yeah,
have
we're definitely not. We're not talking about me forever. That will get old. You'll lose all your fans. And 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 Sleepy, who's laying down, will end up going out.
I love it. I love it.
we're always chirping Ed because he's got the worst setup for a podcast ever. But when you look at Doug's setup and you look at Tom's, and I don't have my setup, I got the background for the podcast. Well, it's nothing but hockey memorabilia or hockey photos or things like that, and
Yeah.
my collection of hockey jerseys. I try to wear a different one on the show every week. So
Yeah.
I even have the Doug Glatt jersey that I gave it to my son. He watched the movie once and he was like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing ever." So
Oh,
and
Jesus.
he's only 12, well 13 now, but yeah, it's I'm so happy that we got you on the show just to talk hockey and chirp a little bit.
Well, I appreciate it, guys, and I believe me when I tell you, I love what you guys do. You're keeping it alive, and it's tough to find guys to talk to that will be open with you, and I love doing that. As you can tell, I love yapping, so it was a good time for me.
So what we'll do is I'm going to hit you up for more guests that through your connection so that we can talk more hockey and get the chirp going, keep hockey relevant.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, those Boston Bruin alumni guys, I mean, you got guys like Joey Mullen who are in the Hall of Fame, right down to guys that just played a couple of games. And I mean, there's so many guys that are worthy of an interview, that have great stories, that have incredible resumes. And believe me, they're like me. They love being remembered, and they would love to sit with guys like you. It's just, your show was perfect.
Yeah, we'll have to talk off air, and we'll next like I said, we're gonna get Dan Locatore on, and we'll talk
Yes.
some shop with him, and then we'll definitely keep in touch, and I'm gonna try to get you on again eventually.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks,
Okay,
boys.
boys.
I appreciate it so much.
Thanks, boys.
Enjoy.
Ed, you got those potato chips right there. Wipe those off. See you later.
Thanks, Doug.